How's it going, everybody? Today, I'm going to be doing something just a little bit different from the 31 Days of Felissa Rose, and I think that I kind of need to explain to you why I'm doing that. See, I've actually just literally finished recording a review for a film called Extremity from 2018, which I was all set to have as my next video, but it was just such a fucking miserable film that I thought, you know what, fuck it. Life's too short, let's just scrap that and do something different. If you're interested at all, let me just tell you that Extremity is just this kind of really trendy, artsy, sadistic film that's, in my opinion, painful to sit through, and let's just leave it at that. There you go, that's another bonus Felissa Rose review for you. She's also, I should point out, only in the film for about 1 second, just as this little face on a TV screen. So I was all set to come on here and just rip at a new one, but at the end of the day I just can't be bothered because that's not constructive, it's not that interesting to listen to, especially when it's a film like that that's really got nothing to recommend it. So, what I decided to do was just bin it entirely, and by doing that, that means that I'm kind of out of whack a bit for now. So instead of just moving ahead and going on to the next one, what I thought I'd do is that I'd maybe take a little detour backwards and talk about a film that I skipped the first time around, and that film is 2009's Silent Night Zombie Night, which is this very kind of low budget zombie stroke action stroke soap opera film that's set during Christmas. The title's actually pretty cool because it completely tells you what to expect. You get some festive fun and you get the living dead. So the basic idea for this one is that what we've got here is this very small kind of self-contained Night of the Living Dead, house under siege from zombies type deal. We've got these two police dudes who get attacked by zombies, then they've got to take refuge in the house of this woman who, it turns out, is actually involved with both of the cops romantically already. So what this is it's a family gathering for Christmas time. What we get then is basically that we've got this kind of romantic triangle between the three characters, with occasional nods to the fact that there's a load of zombies outside before we get this kind of last act that chucks in the kind of zombie shooting action that everybody's been craving, and as well as a few more characters. It is a very claustrophobic film, I've got to say, although I guess it's kind of the point. The zombie outbreak in this film is, of course, limited by what the budget can give you, which isn't that much of a problem because it gives you the feeling that you're just seeing what's happening on the fringes of this kind of global event, which, of course, that's not a new idea. I don't really have a problem with the fact that we never really get to see more than about a dozen zombies, or that these kind of really picturesque little LA houses don't really ever convince me that I'm kind of seeing a world that's gone to shit. Cheap zombie films are fine at doing what they do on a budget. It's all about, at the end of the day, what story do you want to tell? To me, that's kind of more my problem with Silent Night Zombie Night, which is the fact that all of the zombie shit is more or less just this kind of fancy backdrop for this not that interesting love triangle. In terms of its overall shape, it's a film that definitely kind of goes for the Night of the Living Dead approach of using the zombies as an external threat to basically trap a bunch of characters in this kind of pressure cooker environment and letting them be as shitty to each other as possible, because zombie films have always been about showing us that humanity sucks and that we are the ones that are the real monsters. But whereas Night of the Living Dead had got the characters going through these kind of bleak moral dilemmas, what the characters in Silent Night Zombie Night have got to do is to act out this kind of trite little soap opera. And for at least the kind of first 2/3 or so of this film, we're stuck in the house with it and we just can't get away. That would be just about okay if we accept that that's the way that this film is going to go, but the thing is that the characters here are just people that I cannot stand. Especially our lead character, who's meant to be this kind of charming anti-hero, telling it like it is and being this kind of swaggering alpha male macho dickhead, who we're meant to secretly quite like, but the truth is that he's just fucking unbearable. And the other two sides of the triangle, who are the other cop and the woman, are just too kind of flat. They don't really spring to life much in their own right. And it doesn't help that they're given a load of just really desperately kind of on-the-nose lines and very forced emotional scenes that I don't think work because the characters are just too flimsy to support them. It's also a zombie film that I should say that's got very little in the way of your kind of gut-munching gore, more or less just because there's so few characters, which means that instead that what we're left with is this kind of really awful, comedically mawkish nihilism where characters just kind of stare off into the distance and talk about how awful it is living in a world where everybody around them's turned into a zombie that I'm just so fucking sick of seeing. We all know that it would be terrible. Most people have seen this sort of thing done so many times that it doesn't add any depth to what we're seeing. It just makes you realise that the filmmakers are trying to get a reaction from you by rehashing genre cliches, and cliches are one thing, because they're repeating something that's worked in the past, but cliched, rehashed emotional scenes are just laughable. Are we really meant to be moved by what a terrible human tragedy this all is when we've only seen about 5 minutes of zombies slowly milling about? You've got to really earn those emotional beats in a film, not just chuck them in because your movie's sagging a bit between your tacky soap opera scenes. Then, at about maybe the 55-minute mark though, things kind of change pace and we get a truckload of mercenaries turn up to save our heroes, including at last in what I've got to say is a pretty incongruous role as this kind of gun-toting action heroine, Felissa Rose herself. Now, it's not the most convincing bunch of battle-hardened vets that I've ever seen, but I kind of wish that these characters had arrived maybe 10 minutes into the film, just because I'm immediately more interested in characters like those, that at least have got the potential to get the plot moving faster, than I do in people like our central trio, who just kind of stagnate and sit around bitching and crying at each other. I would rather see the Felissa Rose in a motorbike helmet shooting zombies film, than I would the miserable mope fest in a very clean little house film that we end up getting. Injecting this kind of new bunch of characters into the plot is really, at the end of the day, too little too late though, and it's not really enough to save this film from being so limited in its outlook that it's almost not worth the time and effort to sit through. It's not just for budgetary reasons that I think that Silent Night Zombie Night misses the mark, it's just that at the end of the day, this is a story about 3 people I don't like moaning at each other in a house while vague kind of zombie cliches happen around them very, very slowly. Do I care about these characters reconciling their differences? No. Do I care about them finding romantic fulfillment? No. Because this is a fucking zombie film at the end of the day, and it just doesn't cut it when it comes to being in any way a story that kind of feels like it's worth telling. It just strips away all of the fun of the zombie films. I mean, there's no decent horror set pieces, there's no cool kills or kind of gore effects, and it just kind of leaves you with the hard work. It's about 70% kind of cheap soap opera, 15% trendy nihilism, and 15% very low budget action. And even though it doesn't look that bad for its budget, and it is competently acted and directed, I just can't work up any enthusiasm for Silent Night Zombie Night because it's such a tepid rehash, and it just misses out all of the stuff that I imagine most people come to a zombie film to see. I'm going to hit this one with a Felissa factor of 3 out of 10 because she's got a pretty small part here, although she is a breath of fresh air when she arrives, which is nice, as finally being somebody who's got a good screen presence and some actual charisma as opposed to the rest of the characters. She's not by any means a vital part to this one, but she is, I'd say, probably the best character, even though that character is somebody that I wouldn't necessarily say is the most obvious fit for Felissa Rose herself, because she doesn't exactly seem that convincing as somebody that's been going around fighting zombies. But as for an overall rating, I think, to be fair, I could probably give this one about a 3.5 out of 10. I can't say that I enjoyed it really at all, but I didn't hate it by any means. I was just kind of really underwhelmed by the story that it chose to tell, and with the characters that I was meant to care about, when I just wanted them all to be eaten by zombies. It's not a total shit show by any means, it's just really not much fun at all, and it's way too cheap and insubstantial a film to really convince you that it's here to hit you with this kind of serious, deep, dark stuff. But I think, with that, we should probably call this a day for now. Thanks very much for watching, thanks for your time, I hope that it's been fun. I'll be getting back on track next time, I'll be jumping back to where I left off, after this kind of little detour into the past. Am I glad that I went back and checked out Silent Night Zombie Night? Well, it is definitely a hell of a lot better than the film that I was going to look at, so that is something. But anyway, enough of that, all the best, see you later next time for some more 31 Days of Felissa Rose tomorrow, and I'll see you then.